Okay, I think we're live. What's up, everybody? How are you doing in this fine this evening here? You might be wondering, the camera quality is a bit worse because the lamp broke. There's no light source coming there anymore. It's only coming from my room, and I guess I'll open up the light source up there as well. There you go. All right, there you go. Maybe I should have done that before the stream started, but welcome everyone. If you haven't, we'll just start 10 minutes earlier. Because why not? Usually you see people, they start late, right? They're like, I'm going to start at 9:30, but I'm going to actually start at 10, right? Me, I like to be early, right? I just saw some post that's like, I don't know what it means, but streaming now. But can you? I suppose you can hear me. We're gonna be doing the stream. It's going to be different. It's gonna be a different kind of a stream. First of all, what can this guy teach us about being a samurai? Like, why do you even want to be a samurai? Well, you can see it's kind of a clickbaity title. It's not really that clickbaity, but if you read the description, you will see that we're going to be reviewing The Way of the Samurai by Yamamoto Tsunemoto. This guy used to be a samurai. His master died, and so he went to a Buddhist monastery and just decided to chill. And he got bored, and he's like, why don't I just write a book where I just like write stuff people did? If you're gonna read, I will personally recommend this book. Obviously, the metaphysics is obviously gonna be wonky because it's guy's a Buddhist, right? The metaphysics is very wonky. I think one of the things he kind of starts saying is like he just kind of starts saying, "Oh man, the world is nothing. The world is just full of nothing," and that's just my metaphysics, just nothingness. And he like starts talking as if all of these things mean something. Right? That's kind of like the strange thing. But I'm not someone that's giga educated on Buddhist metaphysics, theology. Obviously, what I do know is that it's obviously different from us, but I don't know much about it. It's something that I will look into eventually. But it does have strange metaphysics. It does have strange morality here and there. You're gonna see ethics that's gonna be very strange. Okay, one of the things that you're gonna see is if you don't take revenge on someone slighting you, you are dishonorable, right? You're basically getting dishonored. You're cucked. So if someone causes trouble with you, you should take revenge and kill them. That's basically, if you're a samurai, that's something you should do. Obviously, things like that, we're not going to promote that because we believe that you should love your enemies and you should turn the other cheek, right? So there's a fundamentally different aspect. And one of the things that was very interesting to me when I was reading is that I understood the wisdom of turning the other cheek when I was reading, because it's just, oh, this guy entered my, like, I don't know, my bar and like said that I'm a dum-dum. So I like went to his house and like killed 10 people and he killed 5 of my people, and it just ended up being a bloodbath. And I was just kind of reading that. It's like, oh man, okay, I guess that's cool. But like, what did you even gain? Honor? But I thought everything was nothingness. I thought nothing mattered. I thought just everything you're doing is nothing, but unless I decide it's nothing, right? It's just, I think from what I've seen, it's just contradictory. But you're not going to. Oh my goodness. These kinds of low IQ comments make me so freaking mad. what I'm gonna do different, I'm not gonna show you my face throughout. Okay, I know you're getting sick of it. I'm gonna show you, and I want you to help me out on this because I don't know if exactly if the volume is gonna be fine with this, but we're gonna have gameplay footage, right? Something fun that you can look at while you listen to me talk. I think that will just enhance the experience. I just thought it will be very cool. Where do I? No, not this one. Yeah, this one. I think. Pretty sure. Yeah. So, all right. I'm gonna take myself off. You can see. This is a good game. You play the camera. If the volume is too loud, if you can help me out. If the volume is too loud, do tell me. Can you hear me right now? Okay, I wanna make sure. Can you hear me right now? Do I sound well? All right, can you hear? Is the video like good? Because right now I don't know if you can hear me and the music like from the game at the same time. I think that's cool. If not, I need to decrease volume. Lower the game volume. Okay. All right. How about now? Is it good? All right. Okay, now it's perfect, right? The volume is perfect. If so, we can start properly. I could hear the game more than you. Like even now? Okay, some people say it's good, some people say it's bad. All right, it sounds like it's good. Okay. Yeah, negative 10 decibels for media source seems like it's working. So and I think a lot of the stuff in this book, what we're going to be looking at again, we're going to be following Saint Basil the Great. We're going to be following what Saint Basil the Great says. We're going to be like the bee, right? We're going to see these flowers. These flowers are belief systems and worldviews, but we're not going to treat them all like the same. Okay, there's only one true flower in that sense, right? Where we get all of our teachings from. But we can at the same time visit other flowers, extract the honey from it, and be on our way. And that's what we're going to be doing. So we're not going to be looking for the meaning of life from what Mr. Tsunemoto says, because we have it. But what we're going to be looking at is the more worldly stuff, right? The more practical stuff. Because you're going to notice, especially in like Orthodox Christian books, etc., the advice is going to be, you're going to notice that the advice is much more concerned about the spiritual stuff, which is obviously great, right? And we're not going to complain about that, but what we're going to be focusing on is the more practical application and stuff that is congruent with the Christian message. If you think that that's me betraying the faith, then you're a silly boy, and you should look at the mirror and say, you're a silly boy to yourself, because not even the fathers were that quote purist. Okay, some people want to be like, they want to LARP as being like pure, and so they say, oh, if you read the book written by like even a cultural Christian, that's like bad content. I'm gonna LARP as a monastic, right? Well, obviously, will I tell a monastic to read this? No, because a monastic does not need to read this. Unless he wants to, right? Then I can't tell him like what to do. But I think a lot of the stuff in this book is quite useful. That's why I wanna start by the first thing. One of the first things that the book starts with. Now let's get into the book. It's very interesting. Guidance. All right. He uses the example of a certain lord. This person is Lord Katsushika. He says, always have guidance, always have friends with you that tell you that are going to give you advice. Always have people around you that's going to give you good advice. Listen to them, and be humble enough to listen to their guidance and not fall into error. That's basically what he's saying. So he used the example of Lord Katsushika borrowed from the wisdom of Lord Naoshige. This is mentioned in the Ohana Shikigagi. We should be grateful for his concern. Moreover, there was a certain man who engaged a number of his younger brothers as retainers, and whenever he visited Edo or the Kamigata area, he will have them accompany him, as he consulted with them every day on both private and public matters. So today especially, we're very much used to doing things alone because, you know, like friendship, today friendship means, dude, I like to play video games with you. That's what friendship means now. Friendship doesn't mean someone that I share some aspect of my life. It just means, oh, I play video games with you, man. You seem chill. You seem chill. Let's play some Dota. And let's play some Counter-Strike and have fun together. That's what friendship... But that's not what friendship is, okay? You can do that with any random person. Friendship is being able to confide in someone, taking and giving advice, and learning life with that person. That's what friendship is. And that's kind of what he starts with, is that you need guidance. And I see a lot of people, especially like in Orthodoxy, they try to get into things without guidance. They think that they think they're so intelligent and so smart that, oh, I'm just gonna read the fathers and I'm gonna understand exactly what they say. That's not gonna work out. You're just gonna fall into pre-list with no one to check you, especially if you're new, especially if you're a complete noob. You absolutely need that, in my opinion. If you don't have that, the chances of you falling into pre-list is much higher. That's another thing, is that if you don't want to fall into pre-list, you need people to check you, okay? And you don't need yes men. You don't want yes men. You don't want people who's gonna say, yeah, whatever you say, let's follow whatever you say. You don't want yes men. You want people they're gonna correct you, right? So that's the first thing I want to start with. Another thing that's really good from this book is that he talks about, and this is something that so many people don't understand, is people try to, you know, we have a Bible verse that says that we need to speak the truth in love, right? And what he said, what Yamamoto says, is very close to that. He says that correcting someone, right, correcting someone's opinion on what someone does is compassionate, right? It's a loving thing to do, it's compassionate, and it's a very important thing to do. But if you want to get your message across, you have to know how you're saying it, okay? You can't just like walk up to him, you can't just walk up to your friend and say, hey dude, I noticed that, I don't know, let me give you an example. I guess like if you're playing soccer with him, say, hey dude, I noticed you didn't track back to defense. Are you retarded? Right? If you try to correct him like that, unless, you know, you guys call each other idiots often in good fun, he's not gonna really like that, okay? He's like, hey dude, I saw that you posted this on Twitter. Screw you, you're dumbass, right? Like you can't really approach it. And obviously, maybe I probably have done that a lot of times, but one of the things that I've noticed is that I tend not to listen to what people tell me if they say it in a way that I think is disrespectful. If they say it in a way I don't approve, I'm like, why will I listen to him, right? He doesn't even know how to talk to me. He doesn't even know how to speak properly. Why will I think he has any good advice in that case? And I think you can empathize with that, is that if someone says, again, what does the scripture say? Speak the truth in love. The in love part is very important if you want someone to understand what you're saying. All right. So again, we're looking for confluence here. We're looking for something congruent. Another thing, and again, we're gonna go from good life advice to some really strange opinions here. But he says, he's saying the story from Matsuguma Kyoan. He told him this story, and he says, in the practice of medicine, there's a differentiation of treatment according to the yin and yang of men and women. Okay, we don't care about the yin and yang part. But what's interesting is he says there's a difference in pulse between men and women. Okay, that's the interesting part, right? Men and women have different pulses. But in the last 50 years, men's pulse has become the same as women's. Noticing this in the treatment of eye disease, I applied women's treatment to men and found it suitable. When I observed the application of men's treatment to men, there was no result. Thus I knew that men's spirit had weakened and that they had become the same as women, and the end of the world had come. Since I witnessed this with certainty, I kept it a secret. This literally says it's over. Like, it's freaking over. Men are like women. It's over. It's over. It's over. It's freaking over. Right? It's the end of the world. Men have become like women. I guess we should be happy he didn't see the 21st century, because I think it will be even worse. But by the way, the volume of the game is like, there's no problem with that, right? I'm just talking, but no one's saying anything. So I guess people are. I'm gonna assume people are hearing what I'm saying, which is good. But you don't? What the heck? As in, you don't have a problem, or I don't know. I decreased it just to be sure, but I guess it is interesting. I guess it is interesting. First of all, one of the things I noticed while reading this is, I guess you can find out the signs of declining masculinity by medical conditions like heartbeat. Now we have testosterone levels, right? So now it's even more obvious today, but especially in Japan. And this is like, this book was written, but when was this written? Way of the Samurai. It's very important that we know when this was. This was written. This was written in the 18th century. The first modern edition appeared in the 20th century, in the start of the 20th century. No. Okay, this person died in 1700. So this is a work in the 17th century. This is a 17th century Japanese man saying Japanese men have become like women. Oh boy. The people he calls women will probably be really manly today, but he then goes on to detail, like in other parts of the book, like in what ways they have become women. It's one of the things he complains about is that they're just not serious, right? People are just not serious anymore. They're not taking things seriously. They're just too casual for his taste. And I can definitely empathize with that. This is really good. Recently, people who are called clever adorn themselves with superficial wisdom and only deceive others. Now, who could this be about? For this reason, they are inferior to dull-witted folk. A dull-witted person is direct. If one looks deeply into his heart with the above phrase, there will be no hidden places. It is a good examiner. One should be of the mind that, meeting this examiner, he will not be embarrassed. So the first part was really good, but then he starts to say, you know, a dull-witted person is direct, right? So I guess that will include me, because I am a pretty direct person. I guess I will be a dimwit for him. But this kind of also shows you today, you know, we appreciate people who are direct, people who are honest with their intentions. Mr. Tsunemoto is not. He's not a big fan of people, and he's kind of, this is just a reflection of Far Eastern societies, that the more complex and the more, like, the less direct you are with your intentions, and the more you hide it, the more sophisticated you are perceived. That's basically the idea. That's why you kind of have this approach that they have, or like you can ask them many times, you know, is there anything wrong? Is there anything wrong? You know, is there anything wrong? You know, like you can ask them thousands of times, and they're gonna say no, everything's fine. When, you know, or it's like when they're like thinking that you're a horrible person, they're just like not bothering saying anything about it. So you can kind of see this like very different view. I don't really appreciate being called a dull person, but I don't think there's a point though, right? I don't think especially today we have a lot of really supposedly smart people that aren't really smart people. When in a more sophisticated area, it is natural that one's disposition be affected by different styles, but it is vulgar and foolish to look down upon the ways of one's own district as being boorish, or to be even a bit open to the persuasion of the other place's ways, and to think about giving up one's own. That one's own district is unsophisticated and unpolished is a great treasure. So, wait a second, now being unpolished is good, right? Imitating another style is simply a sham. I don't think I even need to make a comment on this. It's just that alone is enough to kind of enough for wisdom. Then he tells us this story about a man who that is about to be promoted, and one of the council members say, well, I don't want to promote this guy because he entered a drunken brawl, right? He brawled in a bar and beat up people. I don't like him. I don't like that. We don't need people like that here. It's a thug, right? And then someone said, if we were to cast aside every man who had made a mistake once, useful men could probably not be come by. A man who makes a mistake once will be considerably more prudent and useful because of his repentance. I feel that he should be promoted. And then someone else then asked, will you guarantee him? The man replied, of course I will. The others asked, by what will you guarantee him? And he replied, I can guarantee him by the fact that he is a man who has erred once. A man who has never once erred is dangerous. He's a very dangerous man. It kind of reminds me of Christ coming for sinners and not for the righteous, that is, the self-righteous people, right? A man who's self-righteous, a man who, quote, never erred, is indeed a dangerous person, because you never know if people will always make mistakes, but you never know if he's actually going to learn from his mistake. That's the problem. So it's good so if someone makes an error and you're going to use that against him, think again, right? If he's truly repentant about it, then that will actually make him agree. That's not something negative, that's something positive, that's something useful, that's something you want. Alright? There was a man who said, such and such a person has a violent disposition. Oh, who's this about? But this is what I said right to his face. This was an unbecoming thing to say. And it was said simply because he wanted to be known as a rough fellow. So what's going on here is that someone is kind of gossiping about someone else, and he's like, oh, this guy's a very aggressive person, but I came to his face and I said, you know, you're not a nice guy, I don't like you, right? So, you know, you guys can see that I'm really a tough guy. And it in fact says it's a very low class behavior, because first of all, someone that is actually tough, they don't need to do something like that, right? They don't need to say, you know, I said it to, you know, they will know that you will be someone like that. By the way, I do that all the time, so I guess this applies to me. But he says that a samurai has correct manners, that he is admired. Speaking of other people in this way is no different from an exchange between low-class spearmen. It is vulgar, right? So I think this applies to Christians, is that we shouldn't really. First of all, you should never gossip, but you should not try to raise yourself up and say, "Oh, I'm so cool, I'm so brave, I'm so rough, I'm a powerful man." It's not something you want to do. Then he talks about young samurais jeering together and just talking about money, secrets, clothing styles, or matters of sex. And that's what all the young... So this is kind of a boomer post, which by the way shows, I think, very directly that boomer posting is nothing unique to this era. Okay, this is literally a boomer post. Alright, it's like, oh, these young kids, all they do is talk about sex and clothing styles. What a bunch of weaklings. It's literally a boomer complaining about that stuff. But Then he says, customs are going to pieces. One can say that that formerly, when a man reached the age of 20 or 30, he did not carry despicable things in his heart, and thus neither did such words appear. So, people won't even think about, you know, money, sex matters, because they didn't even think about that kind of stuff. So you will never see conversations about it, like, ever. I think similarly today, when people kind of, the way I can connect to this today is I see a lot of people getting into like just posting about stuff they hate. For example, so, oh, did you see the news? This random transgender person said this, and I'm really mad, right? Like something like that. And I'm not saying that we should ignore news or something like that. I'm not saying we should totally ignore like what's happening in the world, but you don't need to know that kind of stuff, okay? You don't need to. Some people really try to get into news, like read news and stuff, just to find stuff to get angry at, right? And if you didn't really, the problem is, if you were a pure person, you won't even really feel the need to think about that. I'm not saying you won't need to even recognize this stuff. Obviously, you will recognize that something's going on. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I'm just saying that if you put so much mental energy into this, then that might say something about yourself. That's what I think. That's what I thought when I was reading this passage. But give me a second. I need to drink some water because my mouth is pretty dry. All right. Now, next passage. It's impossible to ignore this stuff if you have children in public schools. And yeah, so that's kind of what it applies to. I mean, if you have to deal with it, then that is a problem, right? That is indeed a problem that you can't really run away from. So I don't have any issues if that's your case. But I think a lot of people genuinely, and I'm not like, this is not something that you're gonna hear from me all the time, right? So I'm not gonna make this like a point against modern society or something. This is something more for people listening to this. I think that there are some people that read these news just to get mad, like they just want to get mad at something. And I've noticed that people that like constantly make jokes about like how degenerate modern society is, etc., end up being degenerate themselves one way or another. I'm not saying if this interests you personally because of your living conditions, then that's fine. But I think there is also a dangerous trend that some people are interested in this kind of just to like make this a content to joke about. The next passage, he says, when something is said to you by the master, whether it is for your good or bad fortune, to withdraw in silence shows perplexity. You should have some appropriate response, right? So I guess that's something that people did when like they get, you know, their master said, hey, you know, you should do this, blah 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 blah. It's like, and it's like runs away, right? You can't really do that. You should, I guess the point is that you should always respond. And then he adds on, moreover, if at the time that you are asked to perform some function you have a deep happiness or great pride, it will show exactly as that on your face. This has been seen in many people and is rather unbecoming. But another type of person knows his own defects and thinks, I am a clumsy person, but I've been asked to do this thing anyway. Now how am I going to go about it? I can see that this is going to be much trouble and cause for concern. So if you're being asked to do something, I think the idea is that you should show reverence and respect to it, right? If someone is asking your advice, or if someone wants you to do something, and you're like, oh, I'd be so happy to. Actually, you shouldn't be happy to do something, okay? It's not because that you shouldn't want to do things for people, but you should take it seriously. So if someone asks you to do something for you, you shouldn't have the attitude of, oh, I'd be really happy to do so. You should have that, okay, I'm gonna take this very seriously. What do I need to do? That's the kind of mental frame you need to put yourself in. I think that is something that is, first of all, much more respectable, right? Then he says, learning is a good thing, but more often it leads to mistakes. It is like the admonition of the priest Conan. It is worthwhile just looking at the deeds of accomplished persons for the purpose of knowing your own insufficiencies. But often this does not happen. For the most part, we admire our own opinions and become fond of arguing. Now, who does this remind me of? It reminds me of a lot of people in our circles reading theology, quote mining fathers, and then just trying to get into disputes on social media. This is not something that you should do. You should look into learning theology and spiritual matters, church fathers, to close your own insufficiencies. Okay, I'm not going to use my own example. If you're watching someone like Jay and you're like, wow, this guy is so smart, you should not instantly think, I'm going to become like this guy. You should think, wow, he shows me my insufficiencies. So now I know what I need to do, right? I need to learn more about this stuff. I need to at least get somewhat, even halfway close to someone like that. That's the kind of a mental frame you should put yourself into. Because if you just read and learn, eventually all you're going to do is debate, argue with people, try to prove yourself right and everything. That's not going to be useful for you, okay? That's not good. That's a bad thing to do. What's the point of learning if all you're going to do is just grandstanding about how smart you are? If you think you're smart and you're intelligent, then there's no point in learning. But if you think that there's no point in learning, you're not going to learn anything. If you think that you know everything, then there's no point in learning, and you're not going to grow as a person. So humility is incredibly important when you're trying to learn something, right? Even if you're a smart guy, even if you know a lot, you should always try to be humble. You should always say, I don't know much about this. I will take my time and energy to learn about this. So it's definitely incredibly useful. Last year at a great conference, there was a certain man who explained his dissenting opinion and said that he was resolved to kill the conference leader if it was not accepted. His motion was passed. After the procedures were over, the man said, their assent came quickly. I think that they are too weak and unreliable to be counselors to the master. Okay? What's the lesson here? If someone tries to cause trouble to you, don't just instantly compromise and just don't give up. Okay? If someone says, I'm going to do this to you, challenge them. Right? Show some backbone, because if you don't show that backbone, he's going to think you're weak, right? And he didn't even have to go through the effort of fighting you. He's just gonna disrespect you, right? You become his slave by doing so. So you need to show backbone when you're getting challenged. Even if you think you're wrong, you can't just instantly say, "Oh, I think that I agree." Like you have to challenge the person challenging you. It's very important, especially if you're gonna be a father, like. You have to know, you have to stand your ground. Because if you can't stand your ground, you're not going to be able to protect your family. When an official place is extremely busy and someone comes in thoughtlessly with some business or other, often there are people who will treat him coldly and become angry. This is not good at all. At such times, the etiquette of a samurai is to calm himself and deal with the person in good manner. To treat a person harshly is the way of middle-class lackeys. Right, I do think it is very low class to treat working people, but this basically says if you're a working person and you're being mistreated, don't be low class. Okay, don't be a classless person by responding to them in a classless manner. I will say this is another turn the other cheek kind of an advice, and we know that turning the other cheek is a good thing. There is something to be learned from. I love this one. There is something to be learned from a rainstorm. When meeting with a sudden shower, you try to not get wet and run quickly along the road. But doing such things as passing under the eaves of houses, you still get wet. When you are resolved from the beginning, you will not be perplexed, though you still get the same soaking. This understanding extends to everything. Okay? Certain things that happen in your life, no matter how you react to it, it's gonna do the same amount of damage, right? The only thing that can increase damage is how you react to it, pretty much. So you have to be calm. After reading this, by the way, I will never walk. I will never run when it's raining again. And it reminds me of a video. There was this video of a Japanese man in a cafe, and he's smoking cigar, and like it starts raining, and he just keeps smoking. I bet he definitely read this book. I'm very sure he read this book, or he read this passage at the very least. In China, there was once a man who liked pictures of dragons, and his clothing and furnishings were all designed accordingly. His deep affection for dragons was brought to the attention of the dragon god, and one day a real dragon appeared before his window. It is said that he died of fright. He was probably a man who always spoke big words, but acted differently when facing the real thing. That's a strange ass story. I can't really commentate on that, but that's probably a demon, first of all. Dragon god, that's a demon for sure. But there is something to learn there. There is a way of bringing up the child of a samurai. From the time of infancy, one shall encourage bravery and avoid trivially frightening or teasing the child. If a person is affected by cowardice as a child, it remains a lifetime scar. It is a mistake for parents to thoughtlessly make their children dread lightning, or to have them not go into dark places, or to tell them frightening things in order to stop them from crying. Furthermore, a child will become timid if he is scolded severely. One should not allow bad habits to form. This reminds me of Saint Gregory of Nyssa when he's challenged with when Amalekites were killed, I think, like wholesale. He says you should not allow bad passions to form, right? You should kill those passions before they grow. So it sounds very similar here. After a bad habit is ingrained, although you admonish the child, he will not improve. As for such things as proper speaking and good manners, gradually make the child aware of them. Let him not know avarice. Other than that, if he is of a normal nature, he shall develop well by the way he is brought up. Moreover, the child of parents who have had a bad relationship will be unfilial. This is natural. Even the birds and beasts are affected by what they are used to seeing and hearing from the time they are born. Also, the relationship between father and child may deteriorate because of a mother's foolishness. A mother loves her child above all things and will be partial to the child that is corrected by his father. It's a very key point, especially to the fathers listening to this. You should know this. If she becomes the child's ally, there will be discord between father and son because of the shallowness of her mind. A woman sees the child as her support in old age. So, I think this is good advice for people who, if you're gonna have kids, you should listen to that advice. That's all I reckon pretty good. You will be tripped up by people when your resolution is lax. Yes, exactly. I see so many people that like a lot of the questions we get in the Discord, in Orthodox Christian Discord, and I don't blame people. By the way, this is not me complaining about people asking questions. I love people when they ask questions. My problem is not about questions. My problem is the motivation behind asking questions. We get so many people that ask questions because they get owned in an argument, and I'm not saying that you should not do that. I'm not saying don't ask questions when you get owned in an argument. I am saying don't get owned in an argument. Don't be perplexed. Don't be lax in your resolution, right? Because not knowing something, not having the information on something is inadvertently going to cause your resolution to either be lax or you're going to be mentally ill and you're going to act like you know something when you're totally clueless, and it's going to make you look like an idiot. So if you get into problems without having as much information as you possibly can, two things are going to happen. Either you're going to be your resolution is going to falter, right? And you're going to show that you're weak, or you're going to feel stupid. This is why, again, some of the stuff that we do, this is not for everyone. Okay, it's not for everyone. It's not for every person. It's a difficult thing to do. It's something that even I shouldn't be doing. It's risky for people even like me to do. And I'm not saying that. Therefore, I'm a cool kid. I'm not saying that. But the point that I'm making is understand the seriousness of some of the things that you are doing and act accordingly. That's what I want to say. That's what I'm trying to say. Moreover, if at a meeting you are distracted while another person is speaking, by your carelessness, you may think that he is of your opinion, and you will follow along saying, of course, even though he's saying something that is contrary to your own feelings. So yeah, be careful. You know, if you're talking with someone, especially that doesn't have your opinion, listen very carefully. Otherwise, you're going to end up saying, oh, we actually believe this. You see this with a lot of the humanists. It's like they don't even listen to other people carefully. They just, oh yeah, I guess we believe the same thing. They didn't even critically think. You know, yes, he might be a Buddhist, but he has a lot more sense than most of the online apologists that we have today, right? Thankfully, none of the Orthodox apologists are this way, from what I know, on YouTube at the very least, right? But you know, you see this with Roman Catholic apologists. They're so willing to say, oh yeah, we actually believe. They don't even listen to what you're saying, right? So you don't want to be clueless. When you are listening to a story or being spoken to, you should be mindful not to be tripped up. And if there is something that you do not agree with, speak your mind to show your opponent his error and to grapple with the situation. Even in unimportant affairs, mistakes come from little things. One should be mindful of this. Moreover, it is better not to become acquainted with men about whom you have formerly had some doubts. No matter what you do, they will be people by whom you will be tripped up or taken in. To be certain of this fact, you must have much experience. So, if you have a problem with a group of people, you shouldn't really try to be too close to them. Might be a bit dangerous for you. Yeah. It is said that one should not hesitate to correct himself when he has made a mistake. If he corrects himself without the least bit of delay, his mistakes will quickly disappear. But when you try to cover up a mistake, it will become all the more unbecoming and painful. When words that one should not use slip out, if one will speak his mind quickly and clearly, those words will have no effect and will not be obstructive. Yeah, this is something. So a lot of, I guess I can use this example with when you're talking with girls, right? I don't know the current audience. Like maybe most of you might be even married. I don't know. But if you're a youngin, and like I'm not a Master Casanova Extreme Deluxe, but I do know that sometimes I will say something that I probably should not have said. But if you make it a big deal and just say, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to say that, then it's gonna stand out, right? You're trying to cover up your mistake, right? But if you try to fix it by just correcting yourself, right? Saying sorry and correcting yourself are two different things, okay? When you correct yourself, you are pretty much recognizing, you're actively recognizing it in a way, and you're just like moving past it, right? You're showing how it's not affecting you. By just saying sorry, you're basically showing that it's affecting you deeply, and it really depends, right? If you really screwed up, then yeah. And I'm not saying sorry is bad. It's just that you can't say sorry for the small things, okay? Make them count. If it's a big deal, you gotta make them count. But if it's not a big deal, you know, you don't make it a big deal, all right? Like, let's say, like, you just like stutter or say something that, like, you take time and it's like, oh, I'm sorry. Right? I have a friend who does this all the time. He's like, he gets into like a 10-minute rant and he's like, sorry guys, sorry for the ranting. It's like my man, if I didn't want you to rant, like if I didn't want to listen to what you're saying, I would just either mute you, I would just tell you to shut up. Like I would just say, like, I don't care, right? It's like, what's your point, right? So, like, don't be like, oh, I'm sorry for talking so much. It's like, if you genuinely believe that's something wrong that you did, then just casually not do that, right? And then say, yeah, he gives the example of, I have explained the reason for my careless speech. There is nothing else to be done if you will not listen to reason. Since I said it unwittingly, it should be the same as if you didn't hear it. No one can evade blame. And one should never talk about people or secret matters. Furthermore, one should only speak according to how he judges his listeners' feelings. A warrior should be careful in all things and should dislike to be the least bit worsted. Above all, if he is not careful in his choice of words, he may say things like, I'm a coward, or at that time I'd probably run, or how frightening, or how painful. These are words that should not be said even in jest, on a whim, or even talking in one's sleep. If a person with understanding hears such things, he will see to the bottom of the speaker's heart. This is something that should be carefully thought about beforehand. So when people, I feel this when I listen to some people say like a hypothetical, like, if I were to not be Orthodox, stop, wait a second. Like what are you saying, right? That's not something you should be saying. You shouldn't even be entertaining an idea like that, right? If someone asks me, it's like, hey David, what will you be if you weren't Orthodox? I don't even think about that, right? Why would, the question is literally just, show me a moment of weakness. That's literally what the question is. And you're gonna say, you're asking me to show a moment of weakness by even imagining such a thing. So even imagining such a thing, even in jest, in my opinion, is a sin. It is a sin, right? In my opinion, I do think people should avoid even like considering something like that, or like any ideal they like firmly believe, right? So he gives the example of a warrior, right? Well, a warrior shouldn't be saying like, I will run it. No. The behavior you're trying to exemplify as a warrior, that's, you can't have that. Oh, this is a practical biological advice. When reading something aloud, it is best to read from the belly. Reading from one's mouth, one's voice will not endure. This is Nakano Shikibu's teaching. Right? So I guess speak from your belly. Okay, speak from your belly. It'll be good. During happy times, pride and extravagance are dangerous. If one is in ordinary times, he will not be able to catch up. A person who advances during good times will falter during the bad. Alright? So I suppose you can kind of get the idea behind it. I don't need to commentate that. You gotta be level-headed at all times, even at bad times, even at good times. You gotta be level-headed, right? There is surely nothing other than the single purpose of the present moment. A man's whole life is a succession of moment after moment. If one fully understands the present moment, there will be nothing else to do and nothing else to pursue. Live being true to the single purpose of the moment. Everyone lets the present moment slip by. Blah 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 blah. This is a trash advice. I'm not reading this. It is said that what is called the spirit of an ape is something to which one cannot return. So this is interesting. If you guys are interested in memes or whatever, the return to monkey. This is literally the return to monkey. That this spirit gradually dissipates is due to the world's coming to an end. In the same way, a single year does not have just spring or summer. A single day too is the same. For this reason, although one would like to change today's world back to the spirit of 100 years or more ago, hey, this is about you guys. You should listen to this. It cannot be done. Thus, it is important to make the best out of every generation. This is the mistake of people who are attached to past generations. They have no understanding of this point. So I will say that you shouldn't totally ignore the past. You should try to return to the past, but you shouldn't there's two ways that you can do it. One is like fantasizing, be like, oh man, I wish we had the Byzantine Empire today. It would be so cool, right? And the other is looking at the Byzantine Empire in history, learning from their mistakes, and emulating and repeating the honorful things that they've done. So that's what you should do, right? And live the best of the current, take advantage of the current generation you're in. On the other hand, people who only know the disposition of the present day and dislike the ways of the past are too lax. So he's pretty much saying what I'm saying here. Be true to the thought of the moment and avoid distraction. Other than continuing to exert yourself, enter into nothing else but go to the extent of living single thought by single thought. The brave men of old times were for the most part rowdies, as they were of the disposition to be out running amok. Their vitality was strong and they were brave. So these people are basically bullies, basically like just a bunch of thugs. When I had doubts about this and asked, Tsunetomo said, it is understandable that since their vitality was strong, they were generally rough and went about running amok. These days, rowdiness is non-existent because man's vitality has weakened. Vitality has fallen behind, but man's character has improved. Valor is yet a different thing. Although men have become gentle these days because of the lack of vitality, this does not mean that they are inferior in being crazy to die. That has nothing to do with vitality. So I guess there is a disadvantage and advantage, right? If you have too much vitality, you just become too uncontrollable, right? And you start to do crazy stuff. I don't know if you can hear the background noise, but someone's grunting like a pig. A machine is grunting like a pig, all right? It's not me. But you have to take it, you know, not everything is like purely black and white. There's advantages and disadvantages in many things, right? There's advantage of being rowdy, there's disadvantage too. Then there's an advantage of being gentle, right? And usually that comes with wisdom, right? Usually that's wisdom. If you're gentle, you tend to be more wise. You don't see much wisdom from rowdy people, right? You don't see that too often. David, want to get an Orthodox gaming syndicate put together? It's high time resurrect my Twitch. Yeah, if you play Dota, then sure. I was actually thinking of streaming it on like Twitch one day. I thought that would be fun. Even if no one watched it, it's a game I like to play. Our bodies are given life from the midst of nothingness. Existing where there is nothing is the meaning of the phrase. Form is emptiness. That all things are provided for by nothingness is the meaning of the phrase. Emptiness is form. One should not think that these are two separate things. So what he means, Bruce Lee has an explanation of this actually. He says like, be like water, right? When you're in a, it's like, I forgot exactly how he said it, but I gave the analogy of the cup in the water or something like that. And he's like, you know, you should be like that. You should be empty in order to emulate the form according to the current condition that you are in, right? It's kind of like about the spirit and movement. This is practically, I guess you can have it like a useful understanding, but it does come from wonky metaphysics, unfortunately. So it's not something I will really recommend listening to, but you can see kind of how their metaphysic really dictates the way they see the world and the way they see morality, ethics, and human activity and volition. So it's very important to understand that about the Buddhist dudes in the East. Uesugi Kenshin said, I never knew about winning from beginning to end, but only about not being behind in a situation. This is interesting. A retainer will be dumbfounded if he is behind in a situation. In each and every instance, one's function or responsiveness will not be shallow if he is not behind. So, so here's the point basically. I think this is more so about competition. Like for example, if you're playing chess, a lot of people will think that the best players, the best players are those who are like winning from the start to end, right? But that's not really true. A really good gauge of skill is whether you can like win while you're losing, right? Whether you can produce that victory when you're behind, right? When you're losing. That's what, if you're perplexed, then you're too used to like like not winning, right? But rather like having a comfortable journey to victory. Eventually you will fall off, and when you start to bleed, you won't know what you're gonna do. Be like water. When water enters the cup, it becomes the cup. Yeah, that's the Bruce Lee quote. That's what he was referring to. So the idea behind what Bruce Lee was saying is pretty much there, right? Your form should be emptiness, so that when there's something that constricts you, you use that constriction to take over it, right? Behind it. One should be wary of talking on end about such subjects as learning, morality, or folklore in front of elders or people of rank. It is disagreeable to listen to, right? So if you get a priest or if you have a bishop and you start talking about how filioque is heretical, probably don't do that, right? Don't do that. This guy has been a bishop more than you've been Orthodox. Don't do that. Don't try to do something like that. Even if he's wrong, okay? Even if he's wrong, you might say, "Well, I need to correct him." It's like, unless he's someone that trusts you, like very much, like he personally knows you, he trusts you, don't do that, or don't try to pull something like that. In the Kamigata area, they have a sort of tiered lunchbox they use for a single day when flower weaving. Upon returning, they throw them away, trampling them underfoot. As might be expected, this is one of my recollections of the capital. The end is important in all things. I don't know, it sounds stupid. While walking along the road together, Tsunemoto said, "Is not man like a well-operated puppet? It is a piece of dexterous workmanship that he can run, jump, leap, and even talk, though there are no strings attached. Will we not be guests at the next year's Ben Festival? This world is vanity indeed. People always forget this." So it's like, start saying people are puppets, and then we can do all of these things as if we have no strings attached. And are there going to be guests in the next festival? Oh man, this world is vain. It's literally Katie holds up sport tier stuff sometimes. But that's nonsensical. We're not puppets, okay? If you're a puppet saying all of these things, did your puppet master tell you to say those things? Come on, man. Our bodies are given life from the midst of nothingness. This is just same thing. Whether people be of high or low birth, rich or poor, old or young, enlightened or confused, they are all alike in that they will one day die. It is not that we don't know that we are going to die, but we grasp at straws while knowing that we will die someday. We think that all the others will die before us and that we will be the last to go. Death seems a long way off. Is this not shallow thinking? It is worthless and is only a joke within a dream. It will not do to think in such a way and be negligent. Insofar as death is always at one's door, one shall make sufficient effort and act quickly. And then he says, "It is good to carry some powdered rogue in one's sleeve. It may happen that when one is sobering up or waking from sleep, his complexion may be poor. At such a time, it is good to take and apply some powdered rogue." So these people are basically you gotta look good at any time. I guess it's a good thing. You have to look good at all times. Be careful. Always try to look good. But I don't listen to this. I look like crap. I look like crap every time I don't know, every time I do anything. I only don't look like crap when I'm going to church. It's only for God. But even then, it's like I don't pay that much attention, but I fix my hair a little bit and wear some nice clothes and that's it. Other than that, I'm like, whatever, who cares, right? But I guess you should care about your appearance a little bit, but not in a way that is vanity, of course, right? Monks are not going to be grooming maybe they do, I don't know, but when I think of a monastic, I don't think of a man who's like looking at himself in the mirror and grooming himself. I mean, maybe some do, I don't know. I don't think they will do. I don't think that will make much sense if they did. There are times when a person gets carried away and talks on without thinking much. Oh, who's this about? But this can be seen by observers when one's mind is flippant and lacking truth. After such an occasion, it is best to come face to face with the truth and express it. The truth will then be arrived at in one's own heart too. Even when greeting someone lightly, one should consider the circumstances and after deliberation, speak in a way that will not injure the man's feelings. Furthermore, if there is a person who is criticizing the way of the samurai or one's own province, one should speak with him severely, without the least bit of ceremony. One must be resolved in advance. So you can see the kind of, and I try to follow this as much as I can, is that if you gotta, I think it was St. John Chrysostom that said this, it's like, we can't tolerate certain men if by doing so we condemn God or something like that. I forgot the exact quote, but someone in the chat is probably gonna find, because it's a popular saying. And I think especially the idea here is that in generally you should strive to be pleasant, which is something that I'm not that good at, but you should generally strive to be pleasant. But when something serious is being questioned by someone on your own side, pleasantness just doesn't exist. Okay, there is no pleasantness. There's like, you need to go ham. Okay, you need to go ham if someone is questioning the most important thing, because at that stage, if you're like being too, that just shows that you don't care about it, right? That shows that you don't have any like actual emotional grounding in what you're believing, which shows that you don't actually believe in it, which shows that you're a LARPer, right? I think the worst kinds of people are people who are aggressive, but they're not aggressive because they're emotional. They're aggressive because they just want to like be aggressive. I think those are the worst kinds of people, right? If you see me being aggressive, majority of the time it's like there's an emotional backing to it, and I know some people would think that's a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's actually a good thing. I think that's something that's needed. You need to have that because it shows resolution. It shows that you're resolved in that belief. Although a person who exceeds in an art regards others as competitors, last year Hyodo Saku gave up the title of Master of Renga to Yamaguchi Shochin, a praiseworthy act, right? Human life is truly a short affair. It is better to live doing the things that you like. It is foolish to live within the stream of a world seeing unpleasantness and doing only things that you do not like. But it is important never to tell this to young people, as it is something that will be harmful if incorrectly understood. Yeah, because it says it's important to do things that you like, but what are young people going to do? Well, young people like to play games, video games, right? If you tell them, hey, you should do things that you like to do, they might understand that you're telling them to do something useless, right? But it is still important to do something that you like doing. I had a dream. This is Martin Luther King Jr. I had a dream on the night of the 28th day of the 12th month in the 3rd year of Shotoku. The content of the dream changed gradually to the extent that I strengthened my will. The condition of a person is revealed by his dreams. It will be good to make companions of your dreams and to put forth effort. Yeah, if you have companions in your dreams, you're probably being companions with demons. You shouldn't do that. But you should have a strong resolve at any moment, even if it's a dream. Always have a strong resolve. Shame and repentance are like upsetting a pot of water. When a certain friend of mine listened to the way that a man who had stolen his sword ornament confessed, he felt compassion. If one will rectify his mistakes, their traces will soon disappear. So even the Japanese understand the value of repentance. I wonder if there's a religion based entirely on repentance. According to what the Buddhist priest Kayon said, we're probably going to read something stupid. A person becomes more and more prideful if he gains a little understanding because he thinks he knows his own limits and weak points. Okay, I guess it's not stupid actually. However, it is difficult thing to truly know one's own limits and weak points. So you gotta know yourself. Basically, what he's saying. Know thyself. I remember while reading this book, I remember reading a story that's literally like in the lives of the saints too. I think it's from Saint Seraphim of Sarov, where he one day like 3 bandits like robbed him and beat him up, but like the only thing they didn't rob was the cane. So Saint Seraphim of Sarov, or maybe another saint, rushed to them. Maybe this was in the Desert Fathers too. I don't remember, but he like ran to the thieves and said, "Hey, you forgot this," and the thieves confessed there. There was a story exactly like that, like similar to that. Actually, not exactly, but very similar to that in this book. I don't know if I recorded it here, but that reminded me of that. The heart of a virtuous person has settled down, and he does not rush about at things. A person of little merit is not at peace, but walks about making trouble and is in conflict with all. And I just kind of remembered, I mean, some people might again say, it's like, oh, why is an Orthodox apologist reading a non-Orthodox book to people? It's like, you gotta be, you gotta know what you're dealing with, right? Like, you gotta have some maturity to be able to react to something that is fundamentally contradictory to your worldview. Because there will be you're always gonna have that in your life. Right now, you might find a church father saying, "Oh," which I do agree. It's like saying you don't need to read any books by like heathens, and I do agree with that. But I think when he said that, he was living under the Roman Empire. The Christian Roman Empire that persecuted heathens and heretics. Yeah, so you didn't really have that much of a problem then, but now today we live in a very different world, and you need to be able to react properly to non-Christian content, because it will always come up to you, okay? And you need to be able to take in the good and leave the bad. If you can't do that, you're not going to be able to grow. It is a good viewpoint to see the world as it, and I'm not shilling for tolerance, by the way. I'm like one of the most intolerant people on our side of I don't know, social media. People with intelligence will use it to fashion things both true and false, and will try to push through whatever they want with their clever reasoning. This is injury from intelligence. Nothing you do will have effect if you do not use truth. So intelligence doesn't matter if you don't have truth. Next time someone says to you, "Oh, this guy is smart, why don't you listen to him?" Tell them that he has nothing if he doesn't have truth, right? Intelligence doesn't matter if there's no truth. In affairs like lawsuits or even in arguments, by losing quickly, one will lose in fine fashion. It is like sumo wrestling. If one thinks of only winning, a sordid victory will be worse than a defeat. For the most part, it becomes a squalid defeat. Alright? So I suppose what he's trying to say, that if you're competing, it is better to lose quickly than to it is better to just lose quickly than to like, oh man, I messed up. Give me a second. It is better to lose quickly instead of having like false hope, because that can actually do more damaging to your reputation too. I don't really agree with that, honestly, but maybe you do. Feeling deeply the difference between oneself and others, bearing ill will and falling out with people, these things are not good. Probably, I hope that's. I didn't record a full. Oh, I think I missed that. Yeah. Where is this? Alright, not here. I'll check chat while looking through my notes, because I accidentally can't I have like screenshots and I can't find the one properly because like it's very difficult to read the text unless you can zoom in. All right, I think I found the. Okay. Well, I don't know why it got this, but that's good. That's actually good. This is actually a good one. It is unfitting that one be ignorant of the history and origins of his clan and its retainers, but there are times when extensive knowledge becomes a hindrance. One should use discretion. Knowing the circumstances can be an obstruction to everyday affairs too. One should use discretion. This is something I think Jews should listen to, honestly. Don't squabble about genealogies, right? It's important to know about your genealogy. It's important to know your clan, but you can't just focus on it all the time. You gotta be in control. It is written that the priest Shungaku said, "In just refusing to retreat from something, one gains the strength of 2 men." This is interesting. Something that is not done at that time and at that place will remain unfinished for a lifetime. At a time when it is difficult to complete matters with the strength of a single man, one will bring it to conclusion with the strength of 2. If one thinks about it later, he will be negligent all his life. So when you're doing something, finish it as soon as you can. Do not give up. Do not say, I'm going to do it later. If you're going to do something, if you're tasked with something, do it as quickly as you can. Alright? Don't try to say, I'll finish it later. Stamp quickly and pass through a wall of iron is another interesting phrase. To quickly break in and stamp through directly is the first step of celerity. In connection with this, Hideyoshi can be thought of as the only man who has grasped solidly the chance of a lifetime since the creation of Japan. People who talk on and on about matters of little importance probably have some complaint in the back of their mind. But in order to be ambiguous and to hide this, they repeat what they are saying over and over. To hear something like this causes doubt to rise in one's breast. So, if someone talks about useless stuff, I guess that they're trying to hide it. One should be careful and not to say things that are likely to cause trouble at the time. When some difficulty arises in this world, people get excited, and before one knows, it is the matter of everyone. This is useless. If worse comes to worse, you may become the subject of gossip, or at least you will have made enemies by saying something unnecessary and will have created ill will. It is said that at such a time, it is better to stay at home and think of poetry. So be careful what you do out there, fellas. Don't try to get yourself into situations you might regret unless you really have to, right? Then I guess you can argue that's not that bad. To talk about other people's affairs is a great mistake. To praise them too is unfitting. In any event, it is best to know your own ability well, to put forth effort into your endeavors and be discreet in speech. The heart of a virtuous person has settled down and he does not rush about at things. A person of little merit is not at peace but walks about making... Oh yeah, I think we read this. Yeah, this is the part that I missed. When going someplace for a talk or something similar, it is best to let the person know ahead of time and then go. To go without knowing whether the other party is busy or when he has particular anxiety is awkward. Always be punctual. Always be punctual. It shows respect to other people. I don't think I need to even tell you this. This is not even that significant. But you got to be exact because it's just something that shows disrespect. All right? Unless something really unexpected genuinely happened. And if someone visits you, even if you're busy, don't try to be you should pay attention to him. So you should have some form of hospitality. Hospitality is always something important, and the fact that we are losing it in this culture slowly is a massive problem. So this is one thing that's interesting. He says, even taking things too far and learning them too much, even if they're Buddhist stuff, like religious stuff, it's bad. That's what he says. I disagree. There's, religion is something. It's one thing that is You can't just have enough of, but you should still have some. I think it is still good to like have some discipline, right? So that you can take it in properly, so that you don't like let it control you too much and let it become something bad. The late Jinemon said that it is better not to bring up daughters. They are a blemish to the family name and a shame to the parents. The eldest daughter is special, but it is better to disregard the others. Oh man, Jinemon, you're a man. You're the man. Just straight up said daughters are useless. Like, man, that's powerful. That's powerful. Okay. And if you're gonna do something, if you're gonna have resolve for something, you should always be fanatical about it. Being a fanatic is not a bad thing. You should be more and more extreme with your fanaticism, right? You should always, if you're not a fanatic, then you just don't have resolve. You don't have belief in whatever you're supposedly believing in. There's an explanation of a tea ceremony here by Nakano Kazuma, who makes the point that in the tea ceremony, all of the senses are engaged. And what's really interesting, when I read this part, I just said this is Orthodox liturgy. All of our senses in the Orthodox liturgy is engaged in the liturgy, right? Whether we see it, whether we hear it, whether we smell, it's all of our senses are part of the liturgy. They are experiencing something in the liturgy. And Nakano Kazuma actually got to this insight. Is that this what makes those ceremonies special? Is that all parts of your human nature become engaged in this. When intimate friends, allies, or people who are indebted to you have done some wrong, you should secretly reprimand them and intervene between them and society in a good manner. This is basically Christ's advice. Like, if a brother commits sin amongst you, reprimand him secretly first. If he doesn't listen to you, get a couple of your friends and then reprimand him. If he still doesn't listen, then make it all public. If he still does not listen, then he is a heathen and tax collector to you. All right, that's basically that's just a better advice. I mean, that's just from Christ, but it is here, and it's something that you don't do this only with intimate friends, right? Although it is much easier to do it with intimate friends, but even with our enemies, it can be useful, unless the enemy in question is. You know, if you're still like in speaking, I don't know, if you're still in like speaking, you can still comfortably speak with each other, which might not be the case. Then it's very difficult. If you reprimand a person publicly, it will make them look bad. If you praise a person publicly, everyone will see him in a good light. Understand this power, right? And use it in a good way. So he tells a story about like pages. I don't know what's a synonym of a page. There are 5-6 pages traveling to the capital on the same boat. And then like 5 or 6 seamen from the ship leapt aboard and loudly demanded that the pages gave up their boat's anchor in accord with the seaman's code. Hearing this, the pages ran forward yelling, "The seaman's code is something for people like you. Do you think that we samurai are going to let you take equipment from a boat carrying warriors? We will cut you down and throw you into the sea to the last man." And they ran away. So in dangerous times, you gotta act like a man. Okay, you gotta stamp your feet. You gotta show your prowess, and tell them, you know, if you mess with me, you're not gonna. This is not gonna be worth for you. I think this is, again, a lot of it is about showing strength. You need to show strength. If you don't, then you will be persecuted in manners that will not be beneficial to your soul. Okay, you can't tackle all of it in the same way. You can't just be like a warrior at every, like, you know, if you try to be a warrior during this current time right now, I mean, you could do something crazily epic, but it's not going to be good for your soul. Okay, I'm not going to say exactly what. You might get some ideas, and I don't want to contribute to something potentially illegal. I say potentially because I don't know the law well, so it might, maybe it's not. I don't know, but you gotta know. You gotta know. At times, you have to be a samurai. A certain person who came up with a cash shortage when closing out an account book sent a letter to his section leader saying, "It is regrettable to have to commit seppuku over a matter of money. As you are my section leader, please send me some funds." Since this was reasonable, the balance was provided and the matter was closed. It is said that even wrongdoings can be managed without detection. So, here's something crazy. He did something wrong in terms of financial management, and he's going to commit suicide because of the dishonor, right? So, but the point of seppuku is to cover, like, if you do if you do a major mistake, you commit seppuku in order to kind of like pay for it, right? So you don't like live with that shame. So like if you commit seppuku, it's like, you know, people are gonna be like, I guess you know, he's not as shameful anymore because like he judged himself in a way. That's kind of the idea. So now seppuku is cringe and it's cuck behavior, but the point here is that, like, what's the like? I will commit seppuku because this is dishonorable, but committing a seppuku over something like this is like, what's the point? Okay, and the section leader said, "Yeah, that's a good argument. So you can keep living, right? No problem. If your strength is only that which comes from vitality, your words and personal conduct will appear in accord with the way, and you will be praised by others. But when you question yourself about this, there will be nothing to be said. So, do not question yourself, and have confidence and faith in yourself in whatever you're doing that is your calling, right? You should have confidence. You can't. The more you start questioning yourself, you lose resolve. And when we're listening to stories of accomplishment, especially like in our context as Christians, lives of saints, we should always listen to it with deep sincerity, even if it's something that we know. Same goes with liturgy. We listen to the liturgy over and over again, but we still listen to it with the same sincerity. We still listen to it in a sincere manner, and the reason behind it, right? The reason behind doing so is because the topic that is being, right, the thing that you're listening to is something that commands and deserves respect, first of all. But it also, when you're listening to something over and over again, you end up accumulating more knowledge about that topic, right? There's just something, you listen to it like the 10th time and you say, oh, I didn't know about this part of the story before, right? It just didn't cross my mind. But now after listening to the 10th time, learn something new. So it's important to listen to stories of saints, stories of scripture, liturgy in a very sincere manner, and repetition is not a bad thing. And now let's see. All right. Let's see how many. Oh my goodness. Still have a long way to go, my sirs. Long way to go. I'm gonna try to make this quicker because this is getting. I expected this to end in like an hour, but it's getting too much. Oh yeah, this is an insane story. All right, listen to this. When Nabishima Tadanao was 15 years old, a manservant in the kitchen committed some rude act and a foot soldier was about to beat him. But in the end, the servant cut the soldier down. The clanly elders deemed the death sentence appropriate, saying that the man had in the first place erred in matters concerning the ranks of men, and that he had also shed the blood of his opponent. This is not the crazy story, sorry, but it's still a good story. Tadanawa heard this and said, "Which is worse, to err in the matters concerning the ranks of men, or to stray from the way of samurai?" The elders were unable to answer. Then Tadanawa said, "I have read that when the crime itself is unclear, the punishment shall be light. Put him in confinement for a while." So that's an interesting conundrum. It's like you started something bad, but you made it escalate, and this is how you can. This is why it's important to turn the other cheek, because you see here, this guy started a mess, he got responded to, and then he did the thing that a samurai is supposed to do by like just taking revenge on him, but it's all his fault. But instead, what happens is that because of this conundrum, because of this stupid system, he just got out with a light sentence, right? So now we got a foot soldier got killed because a manservant didn't know his place. I don't know. I don't like this story too much, but it is interesting. It is good. There's a lesson to be learned here. Once when Lord Katsushika was hunting at Shiroishi, he shot a large boar. Everyone came running up to see it and said, "Well, well, you have brought down an uncommonly large one." Suddenly the boar got up and dashed into their midst. All of them fled in confusion, but Nabeshima Matabet drew his sword and finished it off. At that point, Lord Katsushika covered his face with his sleeve and said, "It sure is dusty." This was presumably because he did not want to see the spectacle of his flustered men, right? I guess the point is, try not to see the embarrassing parts of what other people are doing. Oh, this story is crazy. Lord Katsushika, when he was young, he was instructed by his dad to cut some people's heads off, like you know, the people who had the death penalty. So he just started cutting people's heads off. He was an executioner, and then like the 10th man, the king, was gonna be executed, and he's like, "I'm tired. I'm not gonna cut your head off." And he was like, his life was saved because of that. What a stupid story. I hate this guy. Just idiot. It's like it's like, "Oh, I'm gonna execute people to like train my sword skill, but oh, I'm tired. I'm not gonna kill you." I don't like. He's not even saving it for merit or like forgiveness or anything. It's just, "I'm tired. I'm gonna save your life." But I mean, maybe it's providential, right? Even thing, you know, this is all according to God's providence, and you can't really go against God's providence. So maybe it ended up being useful, and maybe there is a message here that I'm missing. And then he says there are 4 kinds of retainers. They are quick, then lagging, lagging, then quick, continually quick, and continually lagging. The continually quick are men who, when given orders, will undertake their execution quickly and sell the matter well. So the people, if you're quick, like all of these 4 things, you know, slow first and then quick, quick first and then slow, always quick, always slow. These are categories that kind of just apply to everything. If you're slow in something, you're going to be slow in everything, right? It's not just because you don't like doing it. It's just the kind of pace you're setting. And that's not necessarily bad, right? The lagging then quick are men who, though lacking in understanding when given orders, prepare quickly and bring the matter to a conclusion. And then the quick then lagging are men who, when given orders, are willing to settle it and they prepare it for it, but they procrastinate and just say, "Nah, I'm not gonna do it." And then the next one that appears is Sam Hyde. I don't know why this is part of my notes. During an attack on a castle at Shimabara, There was someone wearing a very like fancy armor, and then Lord Katsushika is like, your armor's shit, basically. And the point is, the point of armor in battlefield is not to look cool. It shows weakness and no strength if you're like trying to look cool. So when you're trying to like, there are times where you can't really look after like yourself because it just shows that you're weak. Oh, this is I think, yeah, this is a stupid story. Once when Lord Katsushika was hunting at Nishime, for some reason he got very angry. He drew his sword from his obi, scabbard and all, and began beating Soejima Zenosho with it, but his hand slipped and his sword fell into the ravine. Zenosho, in order to stay with the sword, fumbled down into the ravine and picked it up. This done, he stuck the sword in his lapel, crawled up the precipice, and just as he was, offered the sword to his master. In terms of quick months, now this is not the stupid one, this is a very good story. Basically, his master beats him up, then loses the sword, and he's like, brings it to the master. So this, you gotta understand first of all that kind of like the Japanese master retainer relationship is very like slave. It's a very slave tier relationship. Okay, this is why like when I know the slave morality is something different, but when people kind of attack Christianity for being like, oh, it's like the slave morality, right? Have you not looked at Buddhist cultures, dude? These people are literal slaves. These people are like actual slaves. You know, or so it's something. But I do think like that behavior particular is not slavish. I'm not condemning. I think it's actually good, very good behavior. I'm just saying that I've seen crazier things that people do for their master. Like the book starts with, you gotta understand, this book starts with a man like committing seppuku in a way that his master doesn't get concerned, right? Like he commits seppuku just to like in a place just so that people don't recognize, like that, just so people forget about him, right? Like that's that kind of dedication I think is too much. That's the dedication you should give to your God, not to your master. God, who is your true master. I'm skipping this one. But then, you know, the author gets into other boomer stuff. It's like, back in the old days, even 5-year-olds will execute dogs. But now today, these youngings, they don't want to execute people. They don't want to behead people, and that's a sign of weakness. So boomerism is always going to be, it's always going to be a thing, right? It's like, oh, back in my old days, we used to execute people when we were 5 years old, right? Oh, this one's funny. A certain master Tokuhisa was born quite different from other people and looked to be a bit moronic. Once a guest was invited and mudfish salad was served, and at that time everyone said, Master Tokuhisa is a mudfish salad, and laughed. Later, when he was in attendance and a certain person made fun of him by quoting the above remark, Tokuhisa pulled out a sword and cut the man down. This event was investigated and was stated to Lord Naoshige. Seppuku is recommended because this was a matter of rashness within the palace. When Lord Naoshige heard this, he said, to be made fun of and remain silent is cowardice. There is no reason to overlook this fact because one is within the palace. A man who makes fun of people is himself a fool. It was his own fault for being cut down. Don't make fun of... Making fun of people is cool, but just don't make fun of people because they look funny. Right? Because they look like they have Down syndrome. Like, imagine making fun of someone because he has like Down syndrome and looks stupid, right? Now, especially if something that he can't really control, because it is indeed a foolish thing to do. No, this is way too long, but oh, this is interesting. So Nakano Mokunosuke was in a small boat, and to like enjoy like the sights, and then some rogue, like some random dude, like just got on his boat, like acts like a dick, and he starts to relieve himself. Now either that's him masturbating or him pissing. I think he's pissing. I think he's taking a little pee, right? And he just got mad and cut his head off. But then he was like, if I just leave him like this, everyone's gonna understand like what he was doing, right? So he just took his body and like buried it somewhere in the forest. And this fact never became known publicly. Well, thank you, Mr. Tsunemoto, for making it public now, right? Really appreciate it. It's probably because he's dead, that's why it's made public. But and then he says, at that time there was also one young homosexual male prostitute riding in the boat. Mekunosuke said that fellow was a man too. It is best to learn how to cut a man while one is still young. And so the man cut the corpse once. Because of that, the young man said nothing later on. So I guess he made the homosexual prostitute cut the corpse too. Man, I'm gonna say something. I don't want to say it, but dang. It is said that every time Okehyobu's group has gathered and after all their affairs were finished, he will say, young men should discipline themselves rigorously in intention and courage. This will be accomplished if only courage is fixed in one's heart. If one's sword is broken, he will strike with his hands. If his hands are cut off, he will press the enemy down with his shoulders. If his shoulders are cut away, he will bite through 10 or 15 enemy necks with his teeth. Courage is such a thing. Resolve, the point is resolve can make you do insane things. If you, I know, I forgot his name, but there's this like Navy SEAL guy who like run a relay race that you can like only run with like 5 or 6 people. It's like physically nearly impossible to do, and he like did it all alone. And like after the race, like his turns out his feet were broken. Or like parts of his body was like broken, and so he's like recovered instantly. And he's like, "How did you do this?" And then people ask him, "How did you do this?" And he just says, "Just resolve, right?" He just like, you know, if things were so. This is like Jocko Willink tier stuff, but it is something that you can do. I'm not gonna advise you to do it, but people when they set their minds on something, they can achieve physical impossibilities. It's just that after you accomplish it, you're probably gonna have broken bones and stuff. So that's the drawback. But if you get used to it, maybe you can become a Navy SEAL. I don't know. Maybe you can become a Jocko Willink. I'm gonna be Jocko Willink. I'm the Navy SEAL guy, and I tell you to wake up early, even though your life sucks. And like I'm giving you advice that only a person with luxurious lifestyle can afford.
I'm Jocko Willink. You gotta wake up at 4 a.m., dude. Even though you're gonna do nothing at 4 a.m.
Freaking idiot. I don't even hate him, but you gotta know the audience you're giving advice to. Anyways, I'll skip this one. I think I'll skip this one too. Then it shows me COVID test results. I think. Wait, this might be the end. Nope. No, we still have some more. I would like to dive. I'm going to skip through a bit more because alright, this one should be good. Yamamoto Tsunemoto always said to his retainers, "Go ahead and gamble and lie. A person who will not tell you seven lies within 100 yards is useless as a man." Ding. I don't agree with that. Long ago, people spoke in this fashion because they were only concerned with a man's attitude towards military matters and considered that a man who was correct will never do good works. They also ignored the misconduct of men and dismissed such matters by saying they do good works too. Men like Sagara Kyoma also excused retainers who had committed theft and adultery and traded them gradually. So these people are like, this is kind of like what samurai lifestyle can be at times. Like you're just building up people to be pieces of crap, to be like horrible people, and they can't get, because that's kind of like what military life kind of, this kind of life is about that. Like, you have to be a piece of crap to be able to do this stuff well. Okay, that's the problem. Oh, this is a massive revenge story. A group of 8 samurai all took the same road for some merrymaking. 2 of them, Komuro Ijun and Otsubi Jinemon, went into a tea house in front of the Kanon temple at Asakusa, got into an argument with the male employees there and were soundly beaten. This could be heard by the others, who were in an excursion boat, and Mute Rokuemen said, "We should go back and take revenge." Yoshi Yoshiemon and Ezo Jinbei both agreed to this. The others, however, dissuaded them, saying this will cause trouble for the clan, and they all returned home. When they arrived at the mansion, Rokuemon again said, "We shall definitely take revenge," but the others dissuaded him. Although they sustained heavy wounds in their arms and legs, Eijan and Jinemon cut the tea house men down, and those who had returned were taken to task by the master. In due course, some thought was given to the details of this event. One person said, by waiting to get the agreement of others, a matter like taking revenge will never be brought to a conclusion. If you want to get things done, you gotta get things done instead of discussing it with people. But then, there's another, one should have the resolution to go alone and even to be cut down. A person who speaks vehemently about taking revenge but does nothing about it is a hypocrite. Clever people, by using their mouths alone, are taking care of their reputations for a later date. But a real stalwart is a man who will go out secretly, saying nothing, and die. It is not necessary to achieve one's aim. One is a stalwart in being cut down. Such a person will most likely achieve his purpose. What is his purpose? Well, what is purpose in the samurai lifestyle? I want to be cool. That's what people think. I mean, that kind of is what a lot of people think. That kind of what it is. That's interesting. Hagakure is a great book. You can find analogies in it and other Bushido literature with orthodoxy. For a start, consider the writer's name Yamamoto. Does Yamamoto Kazuma ring a bell? It's the name of Father Paul Sawaba, a samurai that became the first Japanese Orthodox priest, a student of Saint Nicholas of Japan. That's true, right? That's true. I think these dudes need orthodoxy a lot because there's a lot of really great qualities in here, but the Buddhism makes them say stupid stuff, in my opinion. Ichiyuken was a low-class servant in the kitchen of Lord Takanobu. Because of some grudge he had over a matter of wrestling, he cut down 7 or 8 men and was hence ordered to commit suicide. But when Lord Takanobu heard of this, he pardoned the man and said, "In these times, we need brave men." This is literally anime stuff. It's like, oh, we got this guy in the police force. Oh, what kind of a person is he? Oh, he's a criminal and he's a criminal terrorist and he killed 50 people. What should we make him? Oh yeah, let's make him a prosecutor while he's still in jail. Like, this is I've literally seen this. Well, the person in question wasn't a terrorist, but he was a criminal. They made a criminal a prosecutor because, like, well, he's a good prosecutor. I mean, this kind of thinking is I don't know, you see this in the East a lot. So it's interesting because, like, so you're gonna be, you watch anime, but you a lot of that mindset, like, even the ones you wouldn't think are there, like in anime, etc. You see them, or manga, whatever, Japanese stories in general. You see them in these books, and I think that's fascinating. Oh, this is just a lot of these. I'm not gonna read the stories where, like, some guy steps on the shoes and he kills him. Like, that's there's like a lot of stories like that. And yeah, even a Buddhist priest is like took revenge on someone for striking 3 of his, like, men, and he's like kills their entire, like, group, and he's like, I'm not gonna be a priest anymore, I kill people. It's like that kind of stuff. It's like yeah, there's a very long story about that. Then there's this. I'm gonna skip that. Oh, this one's an insane story. Dohaku lived in Kuroshichu. I can't say it properly. Kuroshichubaru. His son was named Gorobe. Once, when Gorobe was carrying a load of rice, a ronin of Master Komashiro Sakyu's by the name of Iwamura Kunai was coming from the other direction. There was a grudge between the two of them from some former incident, and now Gorobe struck Kunai with his load of rice, started an argument, beat him, and pushed him into a ditch, and then returned home. Kunai yelled some threat at Gorobe and returned to his home, where he related this event to his older brother Genemon. The two of them then went off to Gorobe's to take revenge. When they got there, the door was open just a bit, and Gorobe was waiting behind it with a drawn sword. Not knowing this, Genemon entered and Gorobe struck at him with a sweep from the side. Having received a deep wound, Genemon used his sword as a staff and hobbled back outside. Then Kunai rushed in and struck at Dohaku's son-in-law Katsuemon, who was sitting by the hearth. His sword glanced off the pot hanger and he cut off half of Katsuemon's face. Dohaku got together with his wife, grabbed the sword away from Kunai. Kunai apologized and said, "I have already achieved my purpose. Please give me back my sword and I will accompany my brother home." But when Dohaku handed it back to him, Kunai cut him once in the back and severed his neck halfway through. He then crossed swords with Gorobe again, and both went outside and fought an even match until he cut off Gorobe's arm. At this point, Kunai, who also suffered many wounds, shouldered his elder brother Genemon and returned home. Genemon, however, died on the way back. What a dumbass. It's like, oh, give me my sword back. I took revenge. And then takes the sword back. It's like, okay, I'm gonna kill you now. Like, what an idiot. I'd beat this guy up. I'd beat this guy up so bad. Oh, the story continues. Gorobe's wounds were numerous. Although he stopped the bleeding, he died on account of drinking some water. Dohaku's wife suffered some severed fingers. Dohaku's wound was a severed neck bone, and since only his throat remained intact, his head hung down in front. Now boosting his head up with his own hands, Dohaku went off to the surgeons. The surgeon's treatment was like this. First, he rubbed a mixture of pine resin and oil on Dohaku's jaw and bought it in rami. He then attached a rope to the top of his head and tied it to a beam, sewed the open wound shut, and buried his body in rice so that he will not be able to move. Dohaku never lost consciousness, nor did he change from his everyday attitude, nor did he even drink ginseng. It is said that only on the third day, when there was a hemorrhage, did he use a little medicinal stimulant. In the end, the bones mended, and he recovered without incident. His neck bone was cut, and he got recovered from it. What a crazy dude. What a crazy ass story. This story doesn't even have a message. Okay, there's not even a message. It's just two dudes that had a problem with each other, fought, and then the guy who lost brought his brother to like beat them up. And they just caused massive damage to his like whole family. But like the brother that he took revenge for died. It's like, it's not even a, there's no message, there's no story. It's just, this is a funny story I heard somewhere. Let me tell you this story. Then there's another story where two samurai, one of them who's just walking on the street, one of them who's homeless. The homeless one said that he is a ronin, meaning that he has no master, from Ichigo. "I'm short of money and in difficulties. We are both warriors, please help me out." And the other samurai said, "It is a discourtesy to mention that we are both warriors." So you are trying to, you're saying that I need to help you because we're both warriors. This is dishonorable. If you were a man, you will kill yourself. That's literally what he says. And then the beggar just runs away. It's like, if you were a man, you'd kill yourself. Imagine that. Imagine saying, if you're a man, you should kill yourself. You want to be a samurai still? The viewer who's watching this video, after reading this, you want to still be a samurai? You think samurai are cool? No, samurai are gonna tell you to kill yourself because you try to get a favor from a friend. You wanted money because you were homeless and in need. What a bunch of jerks. So there's a man that got praised for being strong. He said, even when I'm old, I'm strong. And then some lord said, if you were really strong, you won't talk about it, and left. So never try to hype yourself up. Never try to praise yourself. It's not a good idea. And another Tokunaga Kichizaemon reportedly complained, saying that I'm old, and I cannot even fight. But even then, it will be my desire to die in the battlefield, while galloping in the midst of the enemy and being struck down and killed. That's my fantasy. It's literally a fantasy. I wish I would die like that. Interesting. I mean, I think this kind of shows the kind of relationship between Japanese culture and death as well, because for them, death is not something. Rather, death is connected to the way you live. Okay, so if you died in a way, you live that life. So if you died in the battlefield, you are a warrior, no questions asked. You are a warrior. You're a stalwart warrior. You're a brave man who died in the battlefield. Right. So your death kind of, even if your life is a sinful life, your death defines your life. And I think there's a parallel to that with orthodoxy, because the death of a martyr can wash, right? It washes your sins away, because the death of the martyrdom for Christ is for the faith in Christ, and it is a faith that saves us. So even if you're sinful, the death of a martyr, dying as a martyr, is something that can save us. And it is something that defines our life, right? It's not the sin that defines our life, but how we die. So I think there's a connection there, definitely. This one's too long. Let's look at this. Oh, a certain man went off somewhere, and on returning home late at night, found a strange man had slipped into the house and was committing adultery with his wife. He thereupon killed the man. He then broke down a wall and propped up a bale of rice, and by this arrangement submitted to the authorities that he killed the thief. Thus it went without mishap. After some time had passed, he divorced his wife, and the affair was finished. So, I think both of them should have been killed, if you ask me. When a certain person returned home from some place or other, this is another story, same thing. He found his wife committing adultery with a retainer in his bedroom. When he drew near the two, his retainer fled through the kitchen. He then went to the bedroom and killed his wife. Calling the maidservant, he explained what had happened and said, "Because this will bring shame to the children, it shall be covered up as death by illness, and I will need considerable help. If you think that this is too much for you, I may as well kill you too for your part in the serious crime." He straight up says, my wife committed adultery, I killed her because the guy he had sex with left, but I'm gonna say it's an illness because it will be bad for the kids, which makes sense, by the way. That's a good thing to do. And I want you to help me in this, but if you're not gonna help me, I'm just gonna kill you. She replied, "If you will spare my life, I will go on as if I don't know anything." She rearranged the room and set out the corpse in its nightclothes. Then, after sending a man to the doctor's place 2 or 3 times, saying that there was a sudden illness, they sent a last messenger saying that it was too late and there was no longer any need to come. The wife's uncle was called in and told about the sickness. So no one knew that she committed adultery, right? It just passed as death by illness, and no one knew the truth until this guy spilled the beans. Of course. Give me a second. Let me just drink some water. A person who serves when treated kindly by the master is not a retainer, but one who serves when the master is being heartless and unreasonable is a retainer. Understand this principle well, right? You gotta serve someone even if he is being unreasonable towards you, because even the heathens and the tax collectors love those that love them. Right, so there's a point to that. Yamamoto Tsunemoto, when he was 80 years old, became ill, and he was on the verge of groaning. Someone beside his bed said, "Why don't you just groan and just feel better by doing so?" He said, groaning and showing weakness at this illness it does not fit my reputation. Everyone knows my name. Everyone knows what kind of a person I am. If I just start to complain at my deathbed, that will go contrary about what kind of a person I am in my life. And he did not groan until the very end. He lived according to his reputation. One day, Fukahori Magaruku was shot by his own retainer, by his own samurai. Retainers are samurais, by the way. And samurais that are like under a samurai, basically. And the retainer shot him accidentally. And because of the dishonorable act, the retainer wanted to kill himself. But he says, you can kill yourself later. I don't feel well. Just bring me some water to drink. And then, after helping him, the retainer wanted to kill himself, but Magaruku forcibly stopped him. Upon returning, they checked in with the man on guard, and Magaruku asked his father, Kanzaemon, to forgive the retainer. Kanzaemon said to the retainer, "It was an unexpected mistake, but do not be worried. There is no need for reservation. Continue your work." Man, the moment, isn't forgiveness a great thing, right? So what will happen if you just kill him, right? He will die, but even if you like let him kill himself, it's like there's no point. So there's no point. He will kind of just be known as someone who killed himself because he accidentally shot his own master, which will be pretty stupid. A man by the name of Takagi got into an argument with 3 farmers and was soundly beaten. He returned home and his wife said to him, "Haven't you forgotten about the matter of death?" "Definitely not," he replied. His wife then retorted, "At any rate, a man dies only once. Of the various ways of dying of disease, being cut down in battle, seppuku, or being beheaded, to die ignominiously will be shame," and went outside. She soon returned, carefully put the 2 children to bed, prepared some torches, dressed herself for battle after nightfall, and then said, "When I went out to survey the scene a bit earlier, it seemed that the 3 men went into one place for a discussion. Now's the right time. Let's go quickly." So saying, they went out with the husband in the lead, burning torches and wearing short swords. They broke into their opponent's place and dispersed them, both the husband and wife slashing about and killing 2 of the men and wounding the other. The husband was later ordered to commit seppuku. What a wife. This is a tomboy wife. Like, straight up. Then there was a retainer who started an argument with a man, grappled him to the ground, and then trashed him soundly. But the elders said, the man who was trampled should be punished for being trampled. But then Shingen said, so a person named Shingen said, that doesn't make any sense. Because these people start a fight, but they didn't even finish it with a sword. It goes against the way of the samurai. He's going to start a job, finish it. Both were crucified by doing so. So you gotta, if you start a job, you gotta finish it. Alright? So this is a medical advice by Yamamoto. When faced with a crisis, if one puts some spittle on his earlobe and exhales deeply through his nose, he will overcome anything at hand. This is a secret matter. Furthermore, when experiencing a rush of blood to the head, if one puts spittle on the upper part of one's ear, it will soon go away. I don't even know what spittle is. So let me just give it a look. What is spittle? Saliva? Oh, it's just spit. Ooh. That sounds stupid. I'm not doing that. Let's go to the next one. I wonder how many more there is left. Oh my goodness. Alright. I'm gonna try to go through this quickly again, but a certain man said, I know the shapes of reason and of woman. And when he was asked about it, he said, reason is four-cornered and will not move even in an extreme situation. Woman is round. One can say that she does not distinguish between good and evil or right or wrong and tumbles it into any place at all. So, the basic point is saying is that reason just doesn't change. It's the same thing, but women are stupid and they do anything they can. That's literally what it says. Should probably not have streamed this because it's taking me time to read the text, and it's like, should I read this text? Should I not read it? When if I could just pause the recording, read it, and then give a summary of it, and then, man, streaming was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that, but I'll end this video with this one because it's been 2 hours. It's been too long. You're not gonna see more genius advice, but I'll end with this because it's a summary, right? It's a summary of kind of this book, and this is from a Buddhist priest, but he says the way of the samurai is not to borrow the strength of another, nor to rely on one's own strength, to cut off past and future thoughts, and not to live within the everyday mind. Then the great way is right before one's eyes. So it's something that you cannot, it's a strength that you take with others, not by yourself. And it is something that transcends the past and the future, right? And manifested in the present. The moment you take that off, you can see the way right in your eyes. So, I wanna close this up with this. Thanks for watching this. Tomorrow was gonna be interesting. I might upload this to my channel, but tomorrow I will be interviewed by someone if all goes well. I believe you will see who it is. It's not someone that's particularly super well known, but in fact no one really knows this person, but I do think it will be a good interview. I don't think it's even an interview, but it's the kind of like a you can think of an interview. Jay appeared on this channel too. So I'll be appearing on his channel tomorrow. We'll talk about juicy theological topics, right? Good stuff. So this stream will be memory hold anyway, but it's not a big deal. So thanks for watching this, bros.